Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these really easy granny square puff stitch squares. Now you can make them any size you want. You can use them to make blankets, throws, cushion covers. You can use them as a coaster. That one's slightly smaller. You can put your cups on them. You can make them for plates. You can make them for placemats. You can do lots of things with these. Absolutely lots and lots. You can sew a lot of them together in a line and make a scarf. You can sew them all together and make blankets. You use any yarn you want. If you use different size hooks, you'll get different size squares. That one's smaller because I used a 3.5 hook for that one. These ones were done on a 4.5 hook. So it's the same amount of rows, but they're slightly bigger. So you can chop and change this. Use any yarn you want. You can use the hook size it tells you on the label, or you can use a smaller hook for a more compact square. You can use a bigger hook to have it much more open and sort of soft and lacy. So if you're doing coasters, if you use a smaller hook, you'll get a much more compact puff stitch in your square. It's really versatile. Make them with anything you want. Make them any size you want. It's really quite easy. It's quite easy. Once you've got the hang of this, it's quite easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do it. So the way I found to do a square granny square and with a puff stitch, the centre part is always the hardest because a lot of the ones I've seen has been a circle in the middle and then they turn it into a square. I'm going to show you how to have it as a square and keep it as a square. So I'm going to do a magic ring. If you can't do a magic ring, just chain 4 and slip stitch it into a little ring. And then we'll work into the ring. But this is how you do a magic circle. It pulls much tighter and it gives you a nicer centre. Put the tail end of your yarn in your hand and hold it. Just wrap it around your hand and cross it over. Put your hook under and catch that yarn. Get your working end of your yarn and do a chain 1. Just one chain. You can pull your loop a little bit smaller and we're going to pull a loop up. Now the puff stitch is 4 times into the circle. So put your yarn over and go into your circle and pull your yarn up. Just pull it up, that's 1. Keep it on your hook. Yarn over and into your loop and pull through, that's 2. Yarn over, pull through, that's 3. Yarn over, pull through, that's 4. Put your yarn over and pull through all of those loops. If you can't get through all of them at once, then take a few at a time. I've got through all of them. So I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be my corner. You can put a marker in there if you want. We're going to put another puff stitch in. 1, wrap around 2, 3 times and 4 times. Put your yarn over and come through all your loops. If you can't get through them all, just wriggle through a few at a time. So this time we're going to chain 2. 1 and 2. So that's one corner here made. Now we're going to put another puff stitch in. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yarn over, pull through all the loops and that one, and we're going to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. And put the other puff stitch in. The chain 3 is the corners. The chain 2 is just in between to split them up. So one more puff stitch. 1, 2, 3 and 4. yarn over and pull through all your loops and that one. So that's my second corner done. So I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and do another corner. 1 puff stitch, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through them all and chain 3 for your corner. 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 chains in the corner and 2 in between. So there's 2 in between and you've got a chain 3 as a corner. 1 more puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And pull through all your stitches. Make my mouth a bit smaller. And chain 2. 1, 2. So that's your corner, a chain 3. That's a corner, a chain 3. And that one there's a corner, that's a chain 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I need another one. So that's a chain 2 there. So make my next corner. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through, chain 3. 1, 2, 3 to make the corner. And 1 more puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through. Now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. We're going to pull your magic ring tight. Pull it in tight. So into the top of this one, there's a little stitch. We're going to go through that little hole in that stitch. Go through there and slip stitch. Go through that stitch. Make sure it's the stitch you're going in. You go in that stitch. It's going to hold it. Pull through and slip stitch. So this is what we have. Into that chain 3 space, slip stitch. Pull up a loop. We're going to put 1 puff, 3 chain and 1 puff into this corner. So yarn over, pull through 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you can put a marker in there if you want and go back in to that corner. That same one. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through. Now you're going to chain 2. 1, 2. And in between, into that chain 2 space, that's my corner there, into that chain 2 space, put a puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through and chain 2. 1, 2. So in between the corners you'll have 2 chains. So there's my corner again, a puff stitch, and a chain 3. We're going to do another corner. So we're going to put a puff stitch in first. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through, chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now into the same space, put your other puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through. Chain 2. 1, 2. You're going to move in to the chain 2 space in between the corners. There's your corner and there's your corner. Go into that space and do a puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through. Chain 2. 1, 2, and move to your next corner. Put a puff stitch. 1, Pull through them all, chain 3 because it's the corner, 1, 2, 3, and into the same space, 1, 2, 3, 4, build your puff stitch. Now chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going, that's your next corner there, you've got 2 together. In here you're going a chain of 2, put 1 puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going across to the last corner. Put 1 puff stitch, pull through them all, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1 more puff stitch, 1, pull through, chain 2, 1, 2, and do a puff in between the last 2. 1 puff, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through and chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going to slip stitch to the top of that puff into that little stitch again and slip. So that's your corners. You can see where you've got 2 in the same space as your corners. You can mark it if you want. You can put a marker in to the corner. There's your other corner, there's 2 in there, so that's your corners. Or you can put a bright piece of yarn in. But once you get this going, you'll be able to see where they are. So again, we're going to slip stitch in to the chain of 3, into the corner, slip stitch, pull a loop up, and we're going to put 1 puff stitch, 3 chain and 1 puff stitch into that same space. Pull through, do your chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 more puff stitch, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pull through. Now you're going to chain 2, and we're going to put 1 puff stitch into that space and 1 into that space and do a corner. In between here you'll have 2 chains, but in the corner you'll have 3. So chain 2, 1, 2, and move to the next space and put a puff in. 1 puff stitch. Pull through, chain 2, 1, 2, and move to the next space. Put 1 puff in, 3, and 4. Pull through, chain 2, 1, 2. Now we're at the corner again. The ones that have 2 together inside the same stitch are the corners. That's your chain 3. So we're going to put 1 puff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 puff stitch, 3 chain, 1, 2, 3, and 1 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's that corner done. And you can see it's starting to stay in that square. So we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, move to the next space, put 1 puff, pull through, chain 2, 1 into the next space, pull through, chain 2, and in to the corner. 1 puff, 3 chain, and 1 puff in the corner. So I've done my last puff and I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch into that little space there, that stitch there of that puff. Just slip stitch into there. Then slip stitch into the corner. And that's what you'll continue to do until your square is as big as you want it to be. You can put a marker in for your corners. If you're using thicker yarn and you feel that your corners are going a little round, you can put 4 stitches in the corners. You can put 4 stitches in the corner if you feel if yours is not quite square enough. It might depend on your tension, but it will straighten out. The 2 stitches in between each puff is ample. I've got 3 in the corner, but you can change that to 4 if you want. And you can do this any size you want. You can make it really big for a blanket or a throw. You can use it for padding to put on your deck chairs or your bench outside. You can put them on chairs in your kitchen. You can make them big and make them in, do 2 and make them into cushions. You can put a cushion pad in between. There is lots and lots of different ideas that you can come up with. You can even make clothing with these. You can make a couple of nice big granny squares and then you can add sleeves onto it and make yourself a jumper or a tunic or something. You can do 4 or 6 granny squares and you can make a bag with them. You can sew them all together and you can make a bag. It's up to you. And that is how you'll do a puff stitch granny square and keep it nice and square as well. So that is how you do these granny puff stitch squares. They're really easy to make. Make it any size you want. Absolutely any size. Use any yarn. Use a bigger hook, use a smaller hook. It's up to you. Experiment with them. You can make as many as you want and sew them together. You can use solid colours like this. You can use 3-ply, 4-ply, weight 4, weight 5. You can use weight 3. Any yarn you want, any colour. Do any way you want, any way you can. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please click on the bell icon and YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.